Hey guys, how you doing? My name's Llama and today I wanted to talk to you all about my pick for the top 5 quality of life updates that are coming with Wrath of the Lich King Classic comparative to our current position in TBC Classic. So let's dive into it with number 5. Just before we do, however, I do want to stress that this ordering is done by a combination of my personal preference, what I think is going to be the most helpful, as well as also by what I believe people will already be aware of, i.e. something that is a quality of life update that most of you are probably already aware is coming, is going to rank lower on this list comparative to something that you may not have envisioned. So let's dive in. And at number 5, we're going to talk about Dual Spec. Now, Dual Spec is probably the most useful quality of life update that is going to be coming in Wrath of the Lich King. However, you all already knew that, and that's why it's only placing 5th on this list. So, besides the obvious ways in which Dual Spec benefits you in terms of a gameplay perspective, with you being able to queue for the Dungeon Finder with multiple specs enabled, or if you are going to be looking to be able to heal for your dungeon group but want to be able to quest on the side and trying to kill things in Holy is absolutely tragic, then this is obviously going to be something that's going to be of great interest to you. That being said, what a lot of people don't realise is that there are actually financial benefits from your gold's perspective with regards to Dual Spec as well. A lot of people think of it as a massive gold sink for the 1000 gold cost. However, if you compare that to the 50 gold respec cost per time that you want to respec during TBC, you don't have to do very many of them before you actually make net neutral with that 1000 gold offset. Beyond that as well, however, what a lot of people don't realise is the new glyph system coming in Wrath of the Lich King is also able to be stored with regards to a particular talent spec, i.e. if you have your glyphs set to your tank set and your glyphs set to your DPS spec, they will also interchange when you use the different activations of those talent specs, meaning you do not have to pay for new glyphs to change each time you change spec if you were to be changing spec in a conventional manner. Depending on the price of glyphs, this could be incredibly useful, as well as also being a big gold saving. And speaking of those glyphs, they were introduced with the new inscription profession, which will also be able to craft as our number 4 here, which is enchanting vellums. Now, an enchanting vellum essentially acts as though it is like a blank script to which you can put on any given enchantment that you wish to be able to sell on the auction house. This is fantastic because no longer will you be relying on a set of weak auras or simply barking in trade chat to be able to get yourself sales with your enchanting profession. You will now be able to gather the materials, enchant a vellum and put it up on the auction house. Not only is this fantastic for people who are looking from both a sales perspective as well as a purchasing perspective for the enchants, it also creates an entirely new section of the economy in the form of the enchanting vellums, to be able to then use as part of your profit margin when you are crafting them for yourself when selling the enchants on the auction house. I think the biggest aspect of this that's going to be very helpful is for people who are going to be looking for old world enchantments that somebody may be able to craft, put on a vellum and have up on the auction house for an extended period of time, because ultimately it's not always that difficult to find somebody crafting the latest and greatest enchantment. However, if you are looking for, say, a fiery weapon enchanter, a lot of them aren't going to want to stand around in time for the minimal amounts of gold that they're going to get doing this. However, they will probably keep up 4 or 5 of these vellums on the auction house because of the minimal effort required, meaning that you're still able to enchant your weapons for your rolls to be able to level considerably faster. In at number 3, continuing with that enchanting theme, we are going to be having the introduction of the disenchant button on the loot window in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Now, originally this came out very late in Wrath, however I wouldn't be surprised at all to see this come with the start of the expansion, and essentially all this really is going to act as is a very small quality of life upgrade to save somebody getting confused, taking an item to be disenchanted, realising there isn't someone who can disenchant it, and then nobody wants to trade it. It becomes an absolute nightmare of people trying to ninja loot without being able to actually disenchant the item for you. With this button, it enables people to simply press the button, save the disenchant time, have no issues with trading, and simply have the materials deposited into their bag should they win the roll. This is a great time saver, as well as also cutting out on the potential for ninja looting, and is simply just an elegant quality of life upgrade. Now our second spot is going to the reduced mount level purchasing. This is going to enable you to purchase your slow ground mount at level 20 and your epic ground mount at level 40. This is a fantastic quality of life upgrade because not only is it going to be obviously just able to increase the speed at which you travel, but also reduces the cost of these mounts as well to varying degrees. This is going to actively encourage people who are leveling alts to remain in a questing environment out in the open world, leveling gathering professions that might still therefore have some value to them, and all round making that experience considerably easier and better for the player. Beyond this, it's also going to assist with the leveling balance of different classes, much as though the class changes in Wrath of the Lich King have helped with making all classes viable in all roles. This change also enables all classes to level at a more consistent speed to one another, because previously level 20 provided movement speed increases for a great many classes, and those for whom it didn't did start to lag behind in potential leveling speeds when you look at the capacity for movement speed to increase the overall leveling time that a character can attain. The final point of this that's going to be beneficial both for the players in question as well as the health of the game is that it will actively encourage players to consist with their current setup of leveling out in the open world. Classic and TBC Classic have started to show trends towards dungeon leveling, and our final spot on this list is going to make that considerably worse, and therefore anything that increases the capacity for people to be leveling through questing or other means out in the open world is going to be much needed. Now, in at number 1, and a little surprise to a great many of you, is going to be the Dungeon Finder. Now, the Dungeon Finder for quality of life is inarguably an excellent feature. While the feature itself is incredibly controversial, a lot of people do not enjoy the Dungeon Finder, I believe that in terms of quality of life, it's fairly inarguable what this is actually able to achieve for people playing the game. Now, while you could argue that the capacity to stand in Stormwind and queue and get to the new max level in Wrath of the Lich King without ever actually going to Northrend is a bad thing for the game, and I would be inclined to agree, the real reason why I've put this on the list is not actually for Wrath of the Lich King content. The big benefit for the Dungeon Finder, as far as I'm concerned, is going to be the fact that it now enables people at a lower level to be able to do dungeon leveling, especially those who are playing on low pop servers. The Dungeon Finder was the first mechanic introduced from a PvE perspective that is entire region-wide, i.e. if you queue in the Dungeon Finder, you can be placed with anybody from your region. So as a European player myself, I can be placed with anyone on any European server, meaning that I actually have the potential to find groups, whereas on my realm, the incredibly minimal amount of people playing means that it's very rare I ever see even a single other person looking for dungeon groups at low levels, never mind an entire team. This enables the capacity to level through dungeons for myself and many others that simply wouldn't otherwise be able to see it as a viable leveling method, and I think that's fantastic because it enables people to be able to see a lot more of the content. Moving into Wrath of the Lich King dungeons, I think the Dungeon Finder still has an awful lot of place there as well, not least of which because I think it helps to tackle the issues with regards to people not wanting to play the tank or healer role, because as well as the Dungeon Finder being introduced in Wrath of the Lich King, it's also when we got the introduction to Call to Arms. In Wrath of the Lich King originally, the Call to Arms did actually offer a satchel that would enable the player fulfilling the role that was most needed to gain some gold, and also, I do believe, the chance of rare mounts. I can't seem to find an exhaustive list of what mounts were available in that satchel, but as the current player base of WoW is very much mount oriented, this is going to definitely make people want to play in those less popular roles, reducing the queue times for all involved. Now that's going to be my pick for the top 5 quality of life updates coming in Wrath of the Lich King. If your favourite update that's upcoming did not make the list, then do let me know down in the comments below, because there was quite a lot of updates that I wasn't able to put in this list. In hindsight, I could easily have made a top 10, so let me know what you think should have won down below, and I hope to see you in the next video. But for now guys, thanks for watching, Laters.